Welcome back to another edition of Church After Hours. This is episode 3 of a 3-part series talking about relationships. And as you can see, we have our panel tonight. First off, we want to thank the ladies who did an excellent job. Their episode is up now. I'll talk about what it meant to me as we get into tonight's show, but I want to go to the ladies first and just thank you guys for jumping on last week. I thought it was great. And just tell us a little bit about your thoughts when you had an opportunity, because I know you guys don't normally do this type of thing. Tell me your thoughts when you had a chance to see yourself on camera and on screen.
Hello, everyone. Well, after I watched it, I just thought I said what I said. I guess it not, and I don't mean that kind of matter of factly, but I guess I'm as Kurt talked about being vulnerable and then being open and honest, and I'm like, wow, I said that and I meant that. So I guess that's where I was.
That's awesome.
I was a little nervous coming on with other females that I didn't really know, but became comfortable and just realized that we almost had all the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a blessing to sit back and watch and learn from each other.
Absolutely. And in Valencia?
Well, for me, I also was nervous. I was like, oh, I don't know how it's gonna feel, how it's gonna fit in. But after I listened to it again, I was just like, some of the things I can't believe I actually said. It must have just been in the flow; it just came right on out. And some of the things that I hope, like when family members hear that they don't become messy and understand what it is I'm really trying to say, and not go to my father and be like, your wife wasn't happy with you, stuff like that. So I'm hoping that everybody is mature about the process when listening to the message.
Yeah, I've already got some text messages that I've ignored so far, but that's a conversation offline. And then I'm gonna go to my brothers, and I'm gonna just get out the way. Brothers, what was your initial thoughts about watching the sisters' conversation?
My initial reaction was they took what we said, get naked, and took it to another level.
Yeah.
I listened to the whole conversation, and I don't think it has anything to do with us knowing each other, us guys, but y'all seem more comfortable. Y'all seem comfortable, in the regards of just telling your truth. Y'all went all the way in. I didn't think I'd get to talking about some of the personal stuff y'all went in on, but my truth is my truth, and I guess we all convey it in a different way. But y'all took it to another level, definitely.
Well, like it says, relationship, y'all talked about it. And for me, we come from a problem solving aspect, and y'all come from a whole entirely different aspect. And I enjoyed it, and some things, you don't agree with everything, but everybody's truth is everyone's truth, But because I always enjoy seeing my people that look like me, my women that look like me, talk about it, So
Absolutely.
that's
Kurt?
where
My first reaction was a feeling of warmth that I was able to have some insight from some, women that are older than me, share some wisdom. These ladies were vulnerable enough to share, their story, good and bad. So I think it's not enough of that on social media.
Absolutely.
You watching reality shows, and by now we know that stuff is staged, right? I know when I was a teenager, that was the beginning of that stuff, and
The real world.
People start acting that stuff out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I wish somebody would pour some water on me at a dinner. You know what I mean? Just like, and I had to ask somebody last week, like, man, don't send me nothing like that.
Right.
It was toxic, and it was something to my DM, and I'm just like, I don't watch stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was a breath of fresh air. Say, I said all that to say it was a breath of fresh air.
No, that's good, man, because I shared the inside of the backstory because Kurt had hit us. He was 15 minutes in. He's like, brother, this is different. This is touching me in a way that not many of our episodes have done. But I will say this, man, it was a breath of fresh air. And as Kurt and the others have already stated, we see so much negativity online, and to see 4 beautiful sisters, 2 knew each other and 2 didn't, to come together and have a conversation that's never easy. Even if you're talking to people that you know, it's still not an easy conversation to have. And to have it the way you guys did, and to tell your truth, and then to also let brothers know, like, I didn't see, it wasn't no name calling or pointing fingers at anybody. You guys were held yourselves accountable, which was great to see. And most importantly, the thing that I love the most is you guys talked about how you started one way and then how you ended up another way, and that to me was beautiful to see. And I'm not blessed to have a daughter, but if I did, those are the type of sisters that I would want my daughter to be around and to have an opportunity to learn from and to try and be like. So salute y'all, man. I appreciate y'all. I want to flip it on y'all now. Give us your opinion about our episode. What did you guys think about our episode? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but you didn't go in depth. So I just wanted to get you guys' opinion about the episode before yours.
It wasn't hitting on our episode. And I grew up with all you guys, so it was
Absolutely.
what I expected.
Yeah.
So it was good though. I mean, I love when all you guys come together always, and see the boys to men. That's I love it.
Yeah, I agree. And before you go, Val, Mia, I agree with you. The fellas got mad at me, especially Bonds, who's not here tonight. I was like, I thought they killed us. Not that it was a competition, but I just thoroughly enjoyed y'all's conversation more. So I'm in agreement with you, sis. But go ahead, Val. I'm sorry.
For me, I think the first thing that stood out for me was the camaraderie that it seems like you guys have. You can tell that there's definitely some longevity in your relationship and that you guys have grown up together. And I like the way Mia stated it, voice to men kind of phase. So I did like you all's interaction, in that regard, in that manner. I mean, there probably were some comments that I might have had a couple of follow-up questions on because I wasn't sure what the brother meant. But I was like, he's the person I'm not sure I would even question because I wasn't sure if he would be cordial in his responses.
Exactly.
But no shade towards him whatsoever. I thought it was a cool episode. I
Shade.
laughed a lot. So you
Yeah.
guys were like extremely humorous and funny and calling each other out, the red light district comments, all of that. It was really, really funny.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool. And I thought the vulnerable moments were really good and touching. I don't want to overlook that. You definitely had your vulnerable moments. And I appreciated you guys speaking your truth, as Jay said before the introduction, speaking your individual truth. Everybody's truth is different. So I definitely appreciated the brothers' perspectives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the thing that I love the most is that how, the way we interacted on that podcast has pretty much been 30 years of our relationship. Like, that's how we are when we get together, whether it's at my parents' house, Miss Vicky and Mr. Ron's house, like no matter where we at, that's how it always was. You know what I mean? And it's been a long friendship. And like Mia said, boys to men, like I really love my brothers a lot. And I'm so happy to see where we've all, grown and progressed in life. But I'm gonna throw it to Kurt and to drive the dialogue even further.
I would say, in response to some of the things that the ladies were referring to, it takes me to a quote. I believe it's something in the Bible, but I might be paraphrasing. As a man thinketh, as a man speak. So what usually, for any type of person, what's going on with them usually, is what they attract. Usually what, the things that they say, the way they say them. So I always pray for my family, pray for my extended family, pray for my friends. I pray for my enemies. You know what I mean? So that people find peace and love. And I truly believe that, when we talk about relationships and the dynamics of them, I truly believe that you need somebody that are similar in some ways and somebody that is opposite in some ways. So if a person is like myself, more laid back these days, I need somebody that might, like those ladies were, it seemed like they were doers with what they were saying from the time that they were kids with their own siblings. They were the one that was doing. So I actually took a type of look at myself like that a long time ago. And it's funny that Mia talked about our grandparents, because I always said, man, I want a wife that's like my grandmother. and she kind of talked about the maybe the not so good part, and not saying it was bad,
Mm-hmm.
but just the downside of it. Now the upside was, the staying part, which kept the family together,
Mm-hmm.
which once again taught you tolerance, because
Mm.
my grandmother, was a woman that was a wealth of knowledge.
Yep.
You know, even her mother, that as my mother tells me these days, my aunt was a wealth of knowledge. My grandmother's oldest daughter, um, and it's so many women in my family that you know it was inevitable for me to have that game about myself by just watching them. You know what I mean? So by the time I came to play, I was a cold. You know what I'm saying? I was a cold killer out there.
We was a cold piece.
I was a cold killer out there. So I'm some people, the same people that get on these uh, public places and talk about how they would do this and do that, and some of the things y'all talk about how y'all left. Like I'm thankful for my wife that she stayed with me, that I came to this person that I am now, because I'm a lot different. You know what I mean? And the dynamics of a relationship, the ups and the downs, which they talked about, which I don't think we talked about. The last thing I want to say is there was a comment about, maybe going more in depth with some of the things that's happened, that talked about the pain. When you're at peace, the way you talk about pain is in brief comments. You don't keep going into that because you don't heal. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing I saw with the episode. That was healing to me.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I got a question for the ladies, man, and then we can the fellas can answer it. We talked about, and I'm glad Kurt sparked my memory. We talked about in you guys' episode. You talked about how the women stayed. Why do you think a lot of women back in those days stayed? I have my own theories and my own thoughts, but I would like to hear from you guys. So let's start with Val, Mia, and then Shanika this time around.
I think there's several reasons for staying. One, I heard this podcast that was saying that women in the 40s and 50s didn't have the legal rights for women in the courts as it is today was not the way it was yesteryear.
That's a
Meaning
fact.
today, a woman can go to court and clean a man out. I'm not saying I agree with that. But yesteryear, the woman wouldn't get anything. Actually,
Mm,
it was, what's his name? The guy from BET's wife, her book. This is her
Oh,
audiobook.
Bob Johnson.
Yes, thank you. It was her book, and she was saying that when her dad left her mom, that the court system was not friendly to women at that time, women and children, and he was not forced to pay child support, alimony, or anything, even though he was clearly the person that was bringing the revenue, and the wife was the one that didn't have many resources. I think that could have been part of it. Secondly, I think you repeat what you see. Grandmothers and great grandmothers stay. I mean, if you want to be realistic about it, how many people have outside children in that era? I won't even go into this one, but in that era, we know of our cousins and our aunts and uncles that are outside children, and the wife knew, and they
Mm-hmm.
stayed for
Yeah.
whatever reason. The whole thing about being a provider, the resources, I think played a role in it, and I think Kurt hit on something. Sometimes women can see things in men that they cannot yet see in themselves, and
Run that back. Say that
they'll
again.
stay until that man evolves into the being that she know that he can become. So I think it's various reasons. I don't think there's one set answer.
I like that. I like that.
I like that too. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. Pay attention, ladies.
I'm gonna say fear of the unknown.
Mm.
You get into a situation, especially back in the day when everyone was young, get married right out of high school or shortly thereafter, get in a situation not knowing what would be to come if you get out of the situation, from a female perspective, being left with children. Maybe a lot of them didn't work, so no income. Val talked about being the provider, and if you did work, you more than likely made way less than the husband. Maybe you worked part time. Also, if you and at least for me, because in relationships there are ups and downs, and then there are way downs. During my way down, when I did want to walk away, I had to stop and reevaluate myself. Like, stop saying he this, he that, saying what was wrong with me. There wasn't always something wrong with me, but what was wrong with me? I mean, maybe I was prompting, like really taking a self-evaluation to see what I could and could not control in the issues that we were having.
Wow. So you was being accountable, basically, which is a lot of brothers and sisters can't do that now.
Yes, I was trying just everything to hold on, because when you make that vow before God, you take it seriously.
Yes.
But then there are some points where you can't hold on. Enough is enough. But that's where I went. That was my phase.
Absolutely.
I was gonna mimic and say, nowadays a lot of the females work outside the house. They're the money makers. Alpha female, strong woman. We talk back now, so
Hey, when you say strong, do you mean like muscle strong, or what you talking
Some
about?
of them out there too, though.
Yeah, what do you mean when you say strong?
Just
Never mind.
like we're some of the females are the money makers, so I mean, they're not running the household perspective, but I mean, we want to have to say so as well. We're not gonna sit back and be mute like I watch my grandmother be sometimes, when my grandfather walked through and set everything in the standard, like, no, this is how it's gonna be, and
it was.
Hey, hold on.
Right.
Let me speak on that, because she talking about my granddaddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your papa was Rolling Stone.
I love it.
Let me talk about. Look, let me tell you. But let me.
Hey Val,
hold
they
on.
grandfather from Mississippi too, so we
I
already
know the story.
So yeah, my grandfather was one of them guys that hair was to his shoulders. Had his glasses on. You know what I'm saying? Had the belt. The belt with the belt buckle. You know what I mean?
And drove that Cadillac.
Right. My grandfather was one of the first, if not the first, black man driving a Cadillac around Indianapolis. He was probably the third black family to move into the Butler Tarkington area in Indianapolis. So my grandmother wasn't with no type of
no slouch.
Slouch. She wasn't with no slouch by any imagine. So I think, and I don't say that to sound anything other than a person that's saying, there are different types of men when it comes to, maybe this man is educated, maybe this man, has money, business sense, hardworking, all these different type of things that, it's some guys out there, and keeping it PG, they can really, do the thing in the bedroom, but don't like the work. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Can't keep his hands to himself. You know what I'm saying? Can't take constructive criticism. Can't keep a residence. So there are different type of men out there. So I always, would say, don't overlook the guys that we might call nerds in our culture. You know what I mean? That's out there, in actuality, maybe someone has, taught them early, because a lot of these nerds that we call nerds for certain reasons, we, end up with these qualities later on in life, as far as being fiscal with your money, and I don't know if that's the right word, but and just taking care of your business in school, being where they're supposed to be, ain't hanging out all the time. I don't want to be long-winded, but my grandfather was a boss.
Military. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love it.
nothing's wrong with a
boxed in the
strong man.
military.
I don't know about a nerdy man. I don't want no sassy man. I don't want, I
I
want to
didn't
be
say that.
protected, like Val
When I
said
say
in our
nerd,
show.
when I say nerd, I'm talking about the guy that doesn't spend a lot on his car, but spends a lot on his home.
Yeah.
The guy that might not dress as like everybody else with the flashy things, but has investments and things like that.
Right.
That's all I'm talking about.
No, I know what
That's
you
nerdy.
mean.
What was that in that movie?
Is that
Baby
nerdy?
Boy? What was it? Butter and what was the saying? Baby Boy.
Butter
Remember in Baby Boy?
and
What was the
guns.
phrase that he said? Say it again, Jay.
Butters and
Butter,
guns, right?
butter
There you
and
go.
guns.
That's what you're talking
Right.
about, right? Yeah.
Well, we do kind of in our culture. They're not nerds by any stretch of the imagination, but in our culture, I think especially in the hood, we look at these guys as nerds because
I know exactly what you're talking about because I always say this phrase, and my friends and family know I say this. I said, my son is the young man who I was scared to be growing up, right? And he's a nerd. You know what I'm saying? Like growing up in Chicago, I love comic books. I love reading. But where we grew up, that was looked at as kind of corny. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't live in my truth totally because I was still trying to, impress certain people that I was hanging around with, whether it was in school or church. So a lot of things that I was really attracted to, I kind of shunned. As I always called myself a closeted nerd, but I look at him and he just lives in his space. Like he embraces it. Like he's smart, he's nerdy. Like he does corny things. He laughs at corny jokes. Like he makes corny jokes. So it's like I knew exactly what Kurt
well,
meant
really,
with that.
they're not corny. They're just jokes that has a lot of thought process and education behind it, and it goes over a lot of people's heads. So that's that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. But Jay, I want to come to you, man. You have 4 beautiful daughters, 2 of which are at the dating age, and I know Marianne is right there at the cusp, getting ready to go to college, man. Like, talk to me about some of the conversations and some of the things you put them on game to and what to look for in young men out here, because the dating scene for us in the 90s and 2000s is totally different than what our children are experiencing now. And then Mia, you can jump in on that too, because I know you have daughters around the same age as Jay.
When it comes to the kind of conversations I have with them, being this year, they'll be 24, 21, 7, 18. And Joyce has just turned 7. That's my youngest. But I had to have a conversation with myself. First of all, living and doing some of the things I did and not being proud. I'm just talking about not really being a womanizer, but, at the same time, entertaining multiple women as a kid and growing up. And you don't want that karma coming back on you of any bad things I might have did to a female in the past. But I just, when it comes to that conversation, just trust my parents and what I instilled in them. You got to trust it. I know sending Gigi to Tennessee State her freshman year, I was worried about if she would go down the path and do some of the things that I did as a young adult when I left home, as far as drinking and smoking and everything else like that. But I had those conversations with her. I just had to learn how to trust what I instilled in her, what she picked up being around her aunts and my mother and her mother and the strong women that we were raised around. From family reunions to in and out of Chicago on weekends and the people that we surround ourselves with. I thought that once I really thought about it, and it took a couple of weeks with her being down there, and it was all good. I never even worry about the selections or different things that they do when it comes to guys. It's still early with them being so young, but at the same time, I think they more than likely they got their head on straight and they know what not to bring home and what not to do. So I think I'm all good in that section, in that category in life. I'm blessed. I'm blessed because it could be a lot worse out here. We on this internet and see what these girls their ages is doing. So I'm blessed, and that ain't on the forefront of my mind when it comes to talking about my girls.
That's what's up. Same for you, Mia, because I know the girls is around the same age as his girls.
Yeah, they exactly. Lex will be 24. Kennedy will be 21.
Wow.
And then Juanita, she'll be 11. So, yeah, I've had those conversations and still have them, every day. They're, calling me with questions. And it's just, it's wow. It's a journey.
Yeah.
raising girls.
Mhm.
Because sometimes I'm still calling my mom, like,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's every day something different.
And that's a good thing. I think we should always still call our parents no matter what.
Mhm.
I think that's dope. You know what I'm saying? But Shanika, I didn't want to admit you. I didn't know if you had a daughter that you wanted to maybe chime in, and then Kurt, because I know his daughter is at that age now when she ready to, get out there and spread her wings a little bit.
I do have one daughter. She's 26.
Okay.
She's very guarded. She moved out of state. I'm in Indianapolis and she's in Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gone. So, but she's very guarded with herself and some issues that she's dealing with. So I gave her space, but she also, like Johnny said, understands the things that I've taught you, the things that I've shown you, the things that I've warned you about, and the things that I told you that I did, not so you could do it, but so you would not do it. Because I definitely made some teenage girl mistakes. That she's taken that with her and prayerfully guarded it in her heart so that she doesn't have to go down that path.
I love it. I love it. And then Kurt, I'll let you close it out before we go to the next question.
I just try to be transparent with my daughter. When we see things, discuss them. Not pointing and judging, but just discussing. Like, hey, what do you think about this? And making sure that definitely cover all bases because I have a unique situation to where, my daughter is my daughter is biracial, so I'm trying to also be on my best behavior, so she know black men is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? Because that's important to me, boy. But I think as I joke about that, but that's what we should be doing for our kids. My oldest son, I may not have been as as good as I am now, but we're also growing when these kids are coming into our life and so but just being transparent, explaining, and apologizing when need to.
Yeah. I think that's so important, man. Because I love my parents and they'll be watching this, but it's the truth. And my brother can back this up. I that generation, like our parents, the baby boomers, and then our grandparents, the traditionalist generation, it's like they never apologize. You know what I'm saying? Even if they was dead wrong, it's like, oh, you all right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you all right? Or you like that was their way of saying I'm sorry, even if they knew they did something wrong. So those are the types of things as a father that I try to do with my son. Like, you know what? If I'm wrong, like, you know what? I just had to tell my youngest son I was sorry. When it was like last week or a week and a half ago. You know what I'm saying? And he was just like, all right, Dad, I appreciate you for saying that because it doesn't happen often. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's important for us to be that type of role model. Shanika, I might have to call you offline because my oldest son sounds like your daughter. I feel like this dude gonna be gone and we ain't gonna see him forever. You know what I'm saying? Like he's that type of kid that wants to move away and do his thing, and I totally encourage him to do that. But I want to go back to my brother and talk about something.
Hey, you gave me before you go
ahead.
on. You gave me a flashback when you said our parents never apologize. I remember all them whoopings I got. Dude to come in the room 20 minutes later, hey, you good? If we don't get that dude, just almost took my life. So hey, he just look in the room. Hey, you all right? Like, man, leave me alone right now.
Hey, you ain't never lied. That's hilarious.
I was inches of dying. I couldn't breathe. This dude about killed me, man. Tell me, you all right? Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's hilarious.
That is hilarious, man. But what I wanted to go to next, and I'll go to my brother. When we talk about relationships, and this is something that, me and my wife did a couple lectures about 6-7 years ago about dating and marriage in the 21st century. And I feel like one thing that we don't do a good job of is selecting the right person for us, right? Because nobody's perfect. And we talked about this in our episode. Like, you don't want to be with somebody that's just like you. It gets boring. But I think we can do a better job of picking someone that will be a solid match for us. Because I feel like a lot of times you get in a relationship with someone and you realize this ain't for me. I need to get out by any means necessary. So what are some of the things that we can do, you know, when helping our children or younger people to find a mate that's going to be someone that's for them and that could, you know, potentially be a long-term situation?
My advice to any young man or young woman that I talk to, my first thing I always say is don't marry a selfish person. That's the first and foremost. And I don't want to say anything about an only child or anything like that. Just you don't have to be an only child to be selfish.
Right.
So that's always the perception. But just a person that's selfish, because I'm the total opposite.
Yeah.
Like, and any of my friends will tell you, no matter what it is, if you need me, I'm there. If I got a hookup over here, I'm on the text thread letting everybody know. Hey, we got these Jordans in, they on sale, this, that. I'm always, you know, pushing the envelope with the smallest things. It could be a hookup on anything. Any job I ever had, somebody will tell you they got a hookup because I'm not that. I've never been that person. Sometimes I may nag about it. Somebody wanted me to use my discount at Foot Locker. But when I get there and I see my friend, I'm more than happy to, man, get whatever you want. I just spread love that way. So a selfish person,
I ain't got that Foot Locker discount in a minute.
See, I knew he would say something, but just a selfish person in general is always my rule of thumb. I make sure that if you're gonna do for that person, you make sure they doing the same in return. Make sure they got your best interest at heart, whatever it may be. If it's just you know, did you eat today? I like certain signs like that. If you tell me you're gonna call me back, hey, call me back. Like I'm real bad with that. Hey, I'll call you right back. It'd be the next day, and I'm like, that's not. I didn't cross your mind once. That's a something that grinds my gears. But yeah, for the most part, selfish. Make sure the person is not selfish.
I'll go to Mia.
I would say be friends first. Learn their dislikes, their likes.
I like that, Mia.
You know, learn your friend first before you get into a relationship with them. You know, do they go to church? Do they pray? Do you read the Bible? I mean, just you know, learn your friend.
Yeah.
What if they don't
Funny,
read the Bible?
Curtis.
What if they don't read the Bible?
I'm just giving examples.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I know what you're saying, Mia. Your brother just being your younger brother right now. She's basically saying get with somebody that's equally yoked. Because if you a Christian and reading the Bible, then you might want to, you know, not get with somebody that's not of that, you know, same religion as you. You know what I'm saying?
No, I could dig it.
And I like the friends first because my wife definitely put me in the friend zone our first year of college before she even started talking to me. So you are absolutely correct. But Shanika and then Kurt, and then I'll let Val go last.
I would say wait on the right person. I had someone to tell me that I'm married. Well, the person that broke up with me, long-term relationships, told me that I married my rebound.
Wow.
For a quick second, I was like, I was like, no, I didn't marry my rebound. I married who God had for me. So I waited on the Lord, and it was a good thing that the other person was removed and nothing negative about them, but they were not the person that had the same life goals that I did. But having been said, don't jump out of one relationship and jump in with someone else just to ease the pain of the previous person.
Right.
If they weren't meant, heal from them and move on.
That's right. That's right. Curtis?
I would say look for somebody with something that you may not have, you know. And what I mean by that is, you know, I like.
Please explain.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I'm going to.
He's all over the place with that.
So, like, say for instance, I didn't grow up in a 2-parent household. Like that was something that I really looked for in a woman because I wanted a woman that has been with a man that has, you know, folded some clothes before. You know, I fold clothes too. And the reason I say that is because I fold clothes because I don't like them to get wrinkled. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even like to let them stay. So, you know, something like that. Next thing you know, y'all fighting over something way bigger, talking about each other's parents and this and that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I just wanted somebody that has seen some tolerance, because I have seen tolerance and I was, you know, intelligent enough to go seek it out even as a child. but some people haven't seen that. And like
Mm.
Jay said, like being selfish. You know what I mean? So that's what I would say. Basically opposites at a track. You
Mm.
know, don't have
Yeah.
to be just like you, but some of the can fill some of the spots that you may have missing.
Yeah. So filling some of those voids. Val.
Two things for me. Shanika hit one, and I'm a true believer in going for what you need versus what you want. I think
Mm.
wants are too temporary, and needs are definitely longer term, and I think you get more substance with that. The second thing is I always I've learned to look at a person's actions.
Mm.
And not necessarily the words that they're telling me, but the actions that they're actually performing. In my first marriage, I come from a two-family home. My first husband came from a family full of women. His mother, his aunt,
Mm.
grandmother, they all raised him. His grandmother he called mama, and his mother he called by her first name.
Mm.
So I looked at it was an odd dynamic to me in the sense that it wasn't what I was accustomed to. So our first year of living together, it started snowing. So here I go, getting ready for work. Hey, it's snow on my car because my daddy cleans the snow off the cars. He said, "Hey, you should leave work a little early so you're not late." And I was mad for like
Hey, he wasn't lying though.
no, he wasn't, but that ain't the point, Kurt. My expectations were what I had seen,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not realizing this is a man that saw women in every independent
Do
capacity
everything.
and did
Mm,
not see
mm.
me as any exception. Right? So I couldn't be viewed differently than what he viewed his mother, his grandmother, and his aunt. So
Mm.
actions more so than words, things like
Mm.
that.
That was
Wow.
that was strong.
Yeah.
Um, you know what? And not to cut the
No,
next
I'm done.
person that's going. Val. Now, let's let's I want to do some solutions on this episode. So,
Okay.
what will be a solution for a guy that has grown up around all women and
Mhm.
unlike my grandfather said, "Come on, man, come on in here out of them from around the women."
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna make him a sissy.
Mhm.
What? That was
That's
his
just how they
solution.
talk back
I
then.
remember hearing that as a kid.
Yep.
So,
Yes.
what would your solution be
They
for?
that's that Mississippi talk, man.
Yes.
What would a solution be for? You know.
So I think in that case, for me, I didn't know. I looked at where I came from. So I was looking for him to lead me as the wife. Whereas I missed a leadership opportunity in saying, hey, sometimes a woman feels this way when you do this or you do that. I know your mom, your aunt, and all of them took the garbage out and that was whatever, but I'm not interested in taking the garbage out. I'm not interested in going through the alley. I think I could have communicated how that made me feel and
Mm,
why I saw it as an insult instead of just, I was young. I was quiet and I just didn't say anything. And I was just like, and I cried, like, why don't he love me enough to clean the snow off my car? And looking back on it, all I had to do was really have a conversation with him. And
Mm.
I think that if I would have had a conversation with my first husband, multiple conversations, there's a possibility that him and I might have been able to go further than what we did. But like
Mm.
I said, I always thought the man leads the marriage. So I was looking to someone who was completely inexperienced in relationships. His dad was incarcerated most of his life. His dad was an alcoholic. He didn't have, he'll tell you in a minute, the streets raised him,
Mm.
So I didn't know how to communicate effectively to get him to see my perspective
Right. And let
so
me
you
or
say
any,
this.
saying
any
there's no?
perspective.
So you saying there's no helping those type of guys?
No, I'm
Okay.
saying that
All right.
if the woman, because what I did not understand is that as the woman, I have a strength that is silent in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship but powerful. I did
Mm-hmm.
not know how to use my weapon, and I'm talking about the ability to talk to a man in a soft manner, to encourage him, to build him, to help him
Okay.
with different things, and to show him and to teach him. I could have done that, but
I
I
got you.
didn't know that
I
that was
got you.
my role as a wife. I didn't
I
know.
got you.
No one
I got
taught me how to do that either.
Right. And I
you.
think my answer to it basically echoes everything that Val and Kurt just had a small discourse about. That's why I tell young brothers, man, if you're serious about a sister, and you guys have been dating for a while, go and check out the family dynamics. And my friends have probably heard this story a million times in the past, but the first time I met my wife's family, I knew that day I wanted to marry her because I seen how the family structure was set up. You know what I'm saying? God rest the dead. Papa Corva, my father-in-law,
Yep.
you know, that man sat there, and not that you know, his wife and daughters did everything for him, but the level of respect that they gave him, you know what I'm saying? And I know it wasn't performative because myself and others was there. Like that was the norm of how they house operated. And I was just like, yo, man, this dude is amazing. And he raised some amazing children, has an amazing wife. Like, if she comes from that type of environment, even if she's 50% of her mom, like, I'm gonna be good. You know what I'm saying? Because she was raised in a great household. And then second, we talked about this on our episode, and I think it was Ant or Barry that talked about, you know, the importance of a woman having her father in her life, whether he's in the home or not. As long as she has a solid foundation with her father, I think that, you know, is something that can be very crucial to a relationship because you learn how to operate, you know, in certain situations based on your household and your living situation. So if you have a father that is giving you information, giving you instructions on how to operate inside of and outside of a relationship, then that's going to make the relationship easier for you. And unfortunately, a lot of times these days, these young people don't have that. You know what I mean? So I always tell them, and just to answer Kurt's other question about what that brother could have did, he could have had some elders in the community that gave him some instructions and some guidance, whether it's some elders at church, some elders at the rec center. That's why I love my job.
Found
working
him
with the
some
youth.
mentors.
Right.
Found
Give him some mentors and show him, because, you know, if his dad is incarcerated and he don't have those positive male influences in his life, then, you know, it's going to be tough for him. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that we have to do. The village mentality, you know, for a pops is on the block, is it locked up? The men on that block need to make sure that young man has the things necessary to help him be as successful in life as he needs to be.
But he could have thought that he was doing okay. You know what I mean? Like he
Right.
might not have necessarily thought that there was nothing wrong with his family
Correct.
dynamics. He came out
Correct.
fine. He was able to
Correct.
find a wife. So if you don't know what you don't know.
That's
That
true.
is correct. That is correct. That's why I think the communication part is good, to be able to talk to the person about what it is that you saw or that you felt and why, because my experience and his were totally different. And I guess at 19 and 20, I couldn't put it together that this could, you know, cause some future bumps in the road, if you will.
I like that.
I can remember when we were younger. Kudos to Kurt. I don't know if he even noticed. I might have spoke to him about it. It was years ago when we was younger and all of our kids were smaller. He made the comment, if any of our friends in our immediate circle were not taking care of their children,
Yeah, you
and
can't rock with them.
we shouldn't rock with them, and it made me take inventory on some of our friends, and it was a guilty party, and no names will be come from my lips at this time, but it was some guilty parties, and as I began to spread that message, some people slid away. Definitely slid away. And I don't know if it was because of that or could have been something else, but I know some offense was taken to me even asking that question. But that's what we were in our lives as young men. I mean, proud of our kids. And it was a different day after that question was asked. I thank you for that, Kurt.
My take on it at that time was, if he don't take care of his kids, you can't expect him to pay you back when he brought some money from you. You can't expect him not to, you know, snake you in some way. That was my thought pattern at that time.
No, that's real. That's real. And I want to take this opportunity just to publicly acknowledge my two brothers, man, because I'm older than them, but they were fathers before me, and I learned a lot from them, even in with the age difference. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I always respected the way that they fathered their children, and it taught me a lot, even when I ended up having children later. You know, and I think these type of conversations have to take place. Like, we have to acknowledge one another when someone does something that blesses us, or someone that does something that sheds light or give us a revelation that we may not have had or may have been looking for. So I salute both of you gentlemen, because stand up fathers all the way around and encourage me in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Appreciate that.
Let's go back to the ladies.
I don't mean to step on your knowledge, brother Insight, but no. I wanted to get the ladies a take on something that they said in that episode that I thought went to another level, where they fell in the rotation, the order of their siblings,
I'm
talking
sorry.
about the different way your relationships work, being
Based on
based on your the way we all came up, and then the order of your childhood. As you Val, you had mentioned you took care of your brothers at some point, and Sharmia as well, being the oldest. Because see that this is something that resonates with me, because for my mother's 3 children, I'm the middle child. So it took me a while to have a middle child and have her lash out the same way I used to do my mother. So I wanted to get you guys' take on relationships and how you handle things, being the oldest. My brother's the oldest of my mother's 3. I hope I made that plain, but
So for me, I think being the oldest, I it's funny. I was told in one of my counseling sessions that because I am the oldest and I tend to attract partners that are probably the youngest or younger in the lineup, that because I am the oldest, I'm used to mothering and they're used to being mothered. So it's a difference in how I see things versus how they see things. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that maybe in some instances I could be a little bit more nurturing or maybe over nurturing. It kind of depends on the scenario. I'm definitely one who will mimic my parents' dynamics the most because I'm the one who's seen it the most. I was the only child for 8 years before Delon and all of them came along, right? So I saw a lot more, and they spent more time with me in the first 8 years of my life than they actually spent with each of them because I was the only person they had to put their attention in. So when I say it, for me, the dynamics would be I probably had more one-on-one attention and one-on-one experience and seeing it. And then because I am the oldest and had to start becoming a caregiver and a caretaker at a very young age and have never seemed to be able to take that title and put it on the shelf, it goes into my relationships. I'm very nurturing, I'm very caring. I'm always on it. Something is happening with my husband. Hey, what is it? I'm already in solution mode to figure out how to come up with the remedy, how to make it better, or how to make it right. So yeah, it's just the order that gives me the direction, I think, because it's what I've seen, and it's kind of like what was instilled in me more so than would have been instilled in my brothers. And being the only girl is totally different too.
yeah.
I didn't have much to add. I was the oldest. It was just my brother and and he was not quite. I was not quite 4 years older than him. So while I had to watch him, I couldn't discipline him, and I'm very nonchalant. So it taught me patience. I got my sibling digs in later or whatever, blows in or whatever. But it was just, I've always been the type where I can't let it stress me out. So it's whatever. If you're going to do it, that's fine. You can get in trouble by them. So it literally taught me patience.
Is that and this is for Val and Mia, and Shanika's already answered this question I'm about to ask. Is that an oldest child characteristic? Like, I'm not going to let you, like, you know what I mean? Like, stress me out. Like, if you go do it, do it. That's how I was. Like, I'm gonna try to help you from getting killed by my pops, which my brother often got. But is that an older child characteristic? Because I definitely had that as well.
Not for me.
I think for me, because my mom was, a single mom and would work to 5, 6 and then come home. Like, no, we both going down. We better get this house clean. We both, she coming, you hear her car.
Right.
That's funny. I think for me it was different because the responsibilities were not equally distributed in my household. So everything fell on me. A few things. I mean, I had to, you figure I was what, 8 or 9 when they came. So by 9 or 10, I was home in the summertime, babysitting my brothers while my parents were working. I had to have the house clean. I had to cook the dinner. I had to have the clothes washed, all before my dad got home about 3 or 3:30 before I could even go outside and play. My brothers never had to mow the lawn. They never had to take the garbage out. I was taking the garbage out. So it was just different roles of responsibility. So I took the bulk of everything. And because of that, I developed, I guess my mother used to be a worrier. So I kind of picked up on that. So I worried that they would get in trouble. So I did it to make sure that they wouldn't get in trouble. Yes, I just did everything just to keep everybody safe and protected because I had to pave the road. Your cousins are looking at you. Your brothers are looking at you. I'm like, oh my God, who are all these people looking at me and why?
Right.
Yeah,
So
what I would
yeah.
say to that is, for you young guys out there that's watching, maybe find you a older sister. You know what I mean? Maybe you need to make sure she is the older
Shut
sister
up, Kurt.
out of all of the siblings to make sure she cooks,
Gonna hold you down.
cleans, you know what I mean, knows how to show some tolerance,
Right.
and all
That is
that good stuff.
That's funny.
no, I love how the relationship conversation went into our relationship as parents, our relationship as siblings. Like
Yeah.
I think that's dope because I think any relationship, is you're gonna have all of those areas show up in it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But before we close out, man, anything you guys want to share before we get to our final remarks?
Yeah. I would definitely like to say that just the best thing you can do in a relationship is love yourself. You got to be able to love yourself. If you're not
That's right.
happy with yourself, if you got some stuff to fix, it's no reason to even, get in a relationship. And that's what I mean is marriage, boyfriend or girlfriend, romantic, whatever type of relationship it is, romantic relationship. You gotta have yourself together first.
Mhm.
And if you got yourself together, I think like these young ladies said on the other podcast is, when you see something you don't like, you're gonna go on about it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
rather than stay and swim in it or whatever. So yeah, that's what I will want from somebody to take from this podcast. Like, love yourself first.
That's real. That's real. And before I go to the ladies for their final comment, I want to thank them again for last week and again for tonight. But I want to send a special thank you to our sister Sharmia because this was her idea for us to even have these 3 series of episodes. She told her younger brother about it and he told us, and I was like, yo, this is a great idea. Let's do it. So thank you, sis, for putting the bug in little bro's ear so we can have these conversations and hopefully people can get something out of them that can be beneficial to them in their relationship journey through life. So thank you, sis, for real.
I thought this was my idea, but yeah, man, thank you. thank you, man.
but closing remarks, we'll go Mia, Shanika, and then Val.
Okay.
Closing remarks, just self-love.
Yes.
It took me to my 40s to know that, to put myself first sometimes. My older kids are even seeing it like, Mom, what are you just got your nails done? Whether it's materialistic or if I'm just, having a peace of mind, if I need to walk by myself,
Right.
Down on the river. So peace and self-love is number one.
I love that. I love that. Shanika?
Kind of along the same lines as Sharmia, know your worth. Know that once you realize what your worth is, someone else will. And they will know what you will and will not tolerate in life. And I wish I could go back and tell 14-year-old Shanika that, but that's okay. Shanika learned that at 49 last year. So know your worth. Stay humble, though. You're worth it, but you're not any better than the next person.
That's right.
And keep God first in any relationship, and it'll prosper.
Absolutely.
For me, I always trust that inner voice. It never leads you wrong. Even when it scares you and it gives you second guesses or doubts, trust that inner voice. Had I listened to my inner voice more often than I did not, a lot of things, mistakes, and heartaches could have been avoided. I heard it, but I chose to find a way of making an excuse for it or changing it to my understanding or to my perception of how I wanted it to be. So had I just taken it at face value and listened and trusted the voice inside of me, a lot of things would have been differently.
Us humans are good at ignoring that inner voice, right? When we want to do something that the inner voice is telling us not to do. You know what I mean? I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, again, thanks to the ladies for this great conversation tonight and last week. Again, I'm just so appreciative of your time. I know you guys have families, you're busy, so to carve out, 2 hours to do this 2 weeks in a row is phenomenal. We are forever in debt to you guys for this. and hopefully the people that are watching this learn something from it.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that Mia gave this idea to Kurt for us to have this conversation, because I felt like it was needed. Because if you look online, you see so much this men versus women stuff, and especially black men versus black women stuff is getting out of hand. And hopefully this is something that people can look at and like, you know what, you know, it don't have to always be like that. You know, these sisters went through some trauma, but they held themselves accountable and they got out of those situations and created brighter days. These brothers have a 30+ year relationship. They may have butted some heads on some issues and called each other out, but they made it on the other side. So hopefully people can see this as constructive and see this as something that they can, you know, aspire to do and to be. Because I've always looked up, you know, to my older cousin Valencia. You know, my grandma calls her the golden child. She's like the golden child, and she's just a beautiful spirit. And the same thing with Kurt. Like our relationship, you know, I love the fact that as we get older, I feel like, you know, Kurt is that one friend you don't have to talk to every day, right? You can talk to him once a month and everything is cool. Like he's like me; he don't need a lot of attention or hands-on. You know, I know he's going to be all right, but I appreciate the relationship that we all have in our own special way, because it helps make us all better. It helps us to be better fathers, better husbands, you know, better community leaders, and just overall better men. So hopefully someone's find something out of these conversations that's beneficial to them, and please share it with family and friends. And I think that, you know, our relationships with each other, our relationships with our children, and every facet of life can be better. So we appreciate y'all. Thank you for viewing. And this is
Thanks for
Church
having
After
us.
Hours.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Bye.